This is Ambazonia Calling. News, analysis, commentary, opinion, editorials. Ambazonia Calling is a co-production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. Welcome. My name is Ntumfoyn, Herbert, and I bring revolutionary greetings from our studios in Washington, D.C. to all of you, friends of Ambazonia and fellow Ambazonians on Ground Zero and across the globe.
Is Human Rights Watch still in the human rights business, or are they all about lobbying for Paul Biya's colonial genocidal regime? This is MANYU.
It is in Ambazonia's best interest to lobby and get the belligerent, better armed adversary to the table. For J.M. Biengo, I am innocent here.
The leaders, with an understanding of the diplomacy of getting to the negotiating table, recognize the reality and absolute need to secure a place for Ambazonia. This is Tani Jude Agua Ozugen.
It was a state.
It is a state, not was. It is a state.
But there are two regions now.
I am telling you that it is a state.
If you ask me, I'd say flush special status down the toilet where it belongs and continue the fight for the absolute freedom of Ambazonia. This is C. Ajimvo Ambe.
If this special status could be giving us a system of education and then our judiciary system, what do we have at first?
Dear Congresswoman Karen Bass, I write to say you have done nothing wrong in your influence on the Southern Cameroon's War of Independence. Abdul Karim Ali. Read in studio by Willibrod Ade.
He is the rebel on Rebel TV, and somehow he is okay with kidnappings. This is Veronique Betimfe.
It's a democracy.
Obama raises an issue: the failure or absence of strong institutions. This is the monk from Ibalikumato.
Hallelujah! Let the colonized rejoice and be glad. The echo is begotten of the CFA franc, born of colonial France, betrothed to the euro and still saddled with the French treasury. Innocent here for Ambazonia Calling.
The beginning of Pontifical High Mass at the Vatican with Pope Francis on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas. This is edition number 072 of Ambazonia Calling, coming to you this Christmas Day, 2019.
Oh, freedom, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, oh yes, I'm free.
We've got a Christmas show packed together for you today. Our next edition will be New Year's Day, then we go back to our Sunday schedule.
For making me to see this day.
Our New Year edition is going to be focused on something you don't want to hear too much about: special status. Our job will be to rubbish the damn thing. Barrister Sia Jimverambe has got our editorial for the week, and she says there's a place where you can put that special status stuff. It is where you put scum. Here's Barrister Sia Jimverambe with our Christmas Day editorial.
Special status? What special status? Each time I hear these words, I think of a troublesome, gifted, or sick child who needs to be treated differently from his or her siblings because he or she is special, whatever that means, but who nevertheless remains a child of the family. Perhaps that's why I find this whole special status thing very, very disturbing, in fact, annoying. What does the Biya regime not get? Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians are not part of the family. We are not that child who is either too troublesome, gifted, or sick that needs or deserves special attention. If anything, we are that neighbor who visited in good faith, was treated badly, and would simply like to take their leave peacefully. What is even more infuriating is trying to give what one does not have. The Biya regime has clearly forgotten that Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia is a nation equal in status with every legal right to exist independently. If this cardinal truth has been hidden under the bed, eroded, twisted, distorted over the 58 years that Cameroon has gradually and systematically implemented its policies of annexation and assimilation, the truth is back to its original wholesome form, and it is now in plain view for all to see and act upon. Special status for Southern Cameroonians and Ambazonians is a dead-on-arrival project, a distraction that neither Ambazonians nor the international community should pay any attention to. The campaign that must be the focus of every Ambazonian and every friend or ally of Ambazonia is the unconditional independence of Ambazonia, not the promotion of some quack project known as special status that seeks to keep an entire nation in bondage, that enables the perpetuation of human rights violations, crimes against humanity, and genocide. Yes, indeed, that is what special status does. For all its flowery yet amorphous language, all it does is maintain a status quo that is favorable to Cameroon and the Biya regime. We must not let this happen. If you ask me, I'd say flush special status down the toilet where it belongs and continue the fight for the absolute freedom of Ambazonia. That is what we all should be doing. That is what friends and allies of Ambazonia should be doing. That is what the international community should be doing. This is C. Ajimvo Ambe for Ambazonia Calling.
We don't need some my family window. Why Nkuma vishine fungu maveri lava kara wailundo. Akara yuvi chungi mbia miwora. Lenvan vi ravi bifuk bao. Mbia me fana jikobo. Notify your brother. Notify your brother. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow. Notify your brother, notify your brother. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow. Cause I believe in unity, cause I believe in unity. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow.
Just before we get to a news summary for the week, we're going to play a few more audio clips here. They're coming to us courtesy of Freak Media. They were hosting Valentine Ambe. And Valentine Ambe spoke for every true Ambazonian when he said the colonial government of Cameroon had not diagnosed its illness well and was prescribing a cure worse than the disease.
The issue is the government is trying to drink drugs for headache while they have leg pain. They will never get well. That's just a simple truth. But Dr. Nick, you are a doctor.
I know.
At least when a case is diagnosed, it's at least 50% cured.
Yes.
Cameroon government has not even diagnosed what they are sick of. Talk less of taking the right drugs to cure what they are sick of. So I think they should go back to do the diagnosis of what they are sick of. They are sick of secessionists. They are sick of federalists. They are not sick of special status.
Yes.
So try to drink the drug of special status when you are sick of federation or secession is, that one is an error of a very greater magnitude. So to me, let us remove this subject of special status and put aside. If we go to the content, it will be provocative. The notion as a whole is wrong. Then diagnosing the content becomes a crime. It becomes a more grievous crime.
We definitely need to talk about it because people need to understand. See,
I'm a Cameroonian. I think I should sensitize Cameroonians. To me, nothing has been discussed.
So this is Christmas, and what have you done?
A few weeks ago, we told you that music was coming out of Nkondengi prison, that Reverend Deacon Wilfred Tassang was putting out a song. Now I've got some prejudice here because I'm involved, and when you're involved, you tend to say your stuff is good. This is Reverend Wilfred Tassang on Christmas Day. The Ambazonian. I am a new creation, born of God. Ambazonia is my real name. Justice and righteousness, my foundation. Truth and love for motherland yield peace in this perilous world. Beloved, for God so loved us, we ought also to love one another, from the height of Mount FAKO to the plains of Upper Noon. That is the newness we now profess. Beloved, for God so loved us, we ought also to care for one another, sharing joy and sharing pain, sharing oil and sharing grain. That is the newness we now profess. I am a new creation, born of God. Ambazonia is my real name. Justice and righteousness my foundation. Truth and love for motherland yield peace in this perilous world. Tassan Wilfred, said the Yaoundé.
I am a new creation, born of God. Ambazonia, my real name. Justice and righteousness, my foundation. Truth and love for motherland, yield peace in this perilous world. Beloved, for God so loved us, we ought also to love one another. From the heights of Mount FAKO to the plains of Upper Noon, that is the newness we now profess. Beloved, for God so loved us, we ought also to care for one another. Sharing joy and sharing pain, sharing oil and sharing grain, that is the newness we now profess. I am a new creation, born of God. Ambazonia, my real name. Justice and righteousness, my foundation. Truth and love for motherland, yield peace in this perilous world.
Just before I play the next audio clip from this interview on Afrique Media of Valentine Ambe, I'd just like to pause for a little minute to honor the memory of a hero of mine, Francis Watcher.
Requiem
Editor-in-chief, publisher, translator, interpreter, French language teacher. He taught me French in Bishop Rogan College. An amazing man. One of those great guys that you really wanted to be in BOYO when the people come home to a new country and hoist that flag together. But Francis Watcher, after service at the Post newspaper as publisher and editor, and after a brief service as a local developer, a councillor and a mayor, Francis Watcher has now departed from this world. May his soul rest in peace.
Exaudi orationem meam ad te omnis caro venie.
And just evoking that memory of Francis Watcher brought other memories to my mind. In the late 1980s, a trio of journalists at CRTV, Sam Novala Fonken, now of blessed memory, Epsingum, also of blessed memory, and Johnny McViban, brought into the studio our very own Professor Emmanuel Tatanmenta. One of the things they tried to do on that program, which finally landed them in jail, was to try and define who is a parliamentarian in the Cameroons, because they certainly don't play the role of parliamentarians. And they ended up with something close to, they must just be chimps clapping for everything that the big man says. Well, it looks like on this program on Afrique Media, Valentine Ambe came very close.
A lot of people sit in the parliament, they drink their wine, their swollen stomachs and their puffed jaws. They don't understand what is on the field. If they get to the field and understand what is happening, how children are dying, military, both the military and the civilians who are dying, they are Cameroonians. We are not talking on a particular side. So the content of the special statute to me is drinking headache medicine or you have leg pain. The government is drinking toothache drug for leg ache.
Thank you very much, Mr. Valentine.
¿Cómo te llamas?
Cintia.
Cintia.
Sí.
¿De dónde vienes?
Vengo de Asturias, soy de Camerún.
De Camerún.
Sí.
On this Afrique Media program from which we are taking these excerpts, Valentine Biya appeared as civil society, one of the persons who, apparently, doesn't support restoration of independence, but even he could see through what the special status is meant to cover up for, preventing the restoration of what was stolen from Ambazonia. And the colonialists hope that we can be blind enough to accept the poison that is packaged in special status.
If this special status could be giving us a system of education, and then our judiciary system, what did we have at first? That it is a status. That is, look, I'm very rational in my way I reason. What did we have at first that it is a status now which is special? That is giving us our Anglo-Saxon system of education and is giving us our judiciary system back. It means they stole it now. They stole it from us. So special status now is coming to restore what was stolen. So it is not a special status. It's a restoration status. They are restoring what they collected from us. How can they be saying that our English system education should be given to back? What did you study in school? Was it not the English system? Or you were given a French system? Because for them to say that they are coming to give us back in the special status, I've said that all these things that are written here is to confuse Cameroonians. Cameroon is still the same it used to be, the same way. Everything is still the same way it used to be. They have just taken some nice words. I've gone back to government delegate, I've scripted that I don't need special status. Number two, judiciary system. We don't need special status to have it. We have common law. Period. Just what is special status giving us again? Has the common law changed? Or we have some uncommon law lawyers that they are trying to give us now, because we should be able to know what we did not have than what they are giving us now. Yes. If they are giving us common law back, what did we have? We had uncommon law. If they are giving us Anglo-Saxon, which means we had German-Saxon education, they should be giving us what we don't have, not what we have. Yes. Hey, Manuela.
I just that's logic. You just play around with people.
Playing around with words. I'm very sorry to say this. We may be the minority, but we are not stupid.
No, we aren't. We aren't.
Minority is not stupidity. This one should sink deep into the very bones and marrows of every francophone. As a matter of fact, we are a minority in this country, but the most intelligent.
Our children are dying, and our mothers are crying. Okay, let's take a minute of silence for our brothers and sisters who have lost their life in the struggle, and our mothers who are living in the bushes, our children suffering in the bushes with no food and no shelter. We pray that may peace return in our land so that we can live in peace forever. That's what we cry for. We get plenty so many things where we really want to complain to you. See these people where they kill us, not the people where they get for protect we. Our children they for prison, our leaders they for prison, but they've been calling for dialogue. Now who and who got talk? That's why we pray to God. Heal our land, heal our land, heal our land. Cause all our people are dying, and our mothers are crying. Heal our land, heal our land,
our land, cause all our children are dying, and our mothers are crying. Say we get plenty, so many things that we really won't complain to you, Daddy. Nabusa we go so, Mabaminda Buya Limbe.
Every Ambazonian who knows Dr. Ntumfoyn knows that he has flirted with the SDF, flirted with the CPDM, claims to be civil society, but is a very active politician. His latest advocacy was for federalism, and then, now, he found a new twist, confederation. He's doing everything not to cross the bridge to restoration of independence. But on this last soundbite that we're playing of Valentine Ambe, Dr. Ntumfoyn comes in at the tail end to emphasize their call for a confederation of the Cameroons.
So when you say you are giving us the Anglo-Saxon system education, the first Anglo-Saxon university in this country is in BOYO, and that's what we have. Second is in Bamenda, that's what we have. We have common law system, not civil law. What are they giving us back? Let's be able to ratify and be able to rationally, reason this thing now. End up.
So in fact, really, what they probably wanted to say was that you'll be given the opportunity to improve on what you already have. If that's what it is, then say so, and then it'll be clear that you from now on decide what you want to do and so on. But again, as I said, all of this one would have been thrashed out if we had our confederation. Simple.
Ambazonia, Shamo, forward, forward. We are so proud to be Ambazonians. Ambazonia, Shamo, forward, forward. We are so proud to be Ambazonians.
We come from MOMO, NDIAN, FAKO, DONGA-MANTUNG, KUPE, Maningo, Baboy from Bakasi, MEZAM, MANYU, BOYO, LEBIALEM, MENCHUM, NGOKETUNJIA,
our freedom
is all.
Our freedom
is all.
Our freedom
is all. That is all we're fighting for.
Our freedom
is all.
Our freedom
is all.
Our freedom
is all. That is all we believe.
We need no more division.
Let's come together.
Together we are stronger.
Divided we are conquered.
We are so blessed Ambazonians. We are so blessed Ambazonians.
Our diversity makes us great. Appreciate one another. No competition, so let's cherish one another. Our diversity makes us great. Appreciate one another. No competition, so let's cherish one another. Ambazonia shall move forward, forward. We are so proud to be Ambazonia.
Bobe Innocentia is here. He's got the first part of our news wrap-up for the week.
The special representative of the United Nations Secretary General to the African sub-region, Ambassador Fall, spent his 25 minutes of fame before the Security Council, sidestepping his job in favor of serving as a spokesperson for the regime of Paul Biya. The Senegalese-born Ambassador Fall shamefully blamed both sides for atrocities in the annexationist war in Ambazonia.
Des cas de violation des droits humains et d'abus attribués à toutes les parties.
Refusing so much as to acknowledge the responsibility of the state party to guarantee security for citizens and, even worse, their use of the state apparatus of violence to terrorize and colonially dominate Ambazonians.
Le personnel humanitaire a également été attaqué, ce qui met en exergue l'ampleur de l'insécurité.
Ambassador Fall displayed the extent to which he does not take his job seriously by not having any data on the number of civilians and or soldiers killed, referring instead to the vague figure known as thousands of people killed.
Des milliers de personnes sont mortes ou ont été blessées.
To show the extent to which he is in the pocketbook of the Biya regime, Ambassador Fall, in his briefing to the Security Council, called on the world body and the international partners to support only domestic efforts.
J'appelle les partenaires internationaux à appuyer les efforts nationaux en cours visant à répondre aux besoins humanitaires de la population.
It is very telling that Ambassador Fall made no mention of the Swiss-led process. Even more significant, while he briefed the Security Council, most of whose members used statements in support of the international negotiation process under the auspices of Switzerland, Ambassador Fall called for support not to the negotiations without preconditions, but for dialogue.
Il est important de poursuivre le dialogue avec toutes les parties prenantes
and for appeasement measures to be taken to accommodate those he claimed were disgruntled from being marginalized.
Afin d'apaiser les griefs sous-jacents de ceux qui se sentent marginalisés.
Another insult at the Ambazonian quest for independence restoration. While Security Council members who live and work thousands of miles away from the Cameroons had more precise information and better recommendations, Ambassador Fall pressed the international community to support, as a solution to the war, what he called accelerated decentralization,
y compris sur une décentralisation accrue.
A ramping up of development assistance,
l'aide au développement,
support to disarmament, demobilization and reintegration,
et le désarmement, la démobilisation et la réintégration DDR.
All while never asking once for a ceasefire, the withdrawal of colonial forces from Ambazonia, and the end of the genocidal violence there. One of the countries that spoke up soon after Ambassador Fall finished speaking was Belgium, that took the floor, and one of the first things they insisted needed to be pursued seriously is the internationally supported negotiations under the auspices of Switzerland.
Nous tenons également à féliciter toutes les parties pour leur engagement dans le cadre de la médiation suisse en vue de pouvoir résoudre la crise des régions anglophones.
Ambassador Fall is one of two senior United Nations staff originally from Senegal, the other being Adama Dieng, who is in charge of genocide prevention and who, instead of doing their job, have abdicated it in favor of campaigning for the so-called one and indivisible Cameroon, a thing they have not done for the one and indivisible defunct Union of the Gambia and Senegal, known as Senegambia. Such a shame. Political parties of colonial Cameroon, such as Chop People Their Money CPDM and the SDF, are finding out just how difficult it will be for them to field candidates and or campaign, let alone vote and or govern any local council, represent any district as an MP or a senator, with Ambazonians determined to achieve full restoration of the independence of their homeland.
I, Mary Ann Aggressive of Tinechong, do here disclaims the allegation that I am a militant of the Social Democratic Front SDF party and that I have registered for the upcoming municipal election in the subdivision comes February 9, 2020. I am not a politician and does not belong to any party.
The acts done in the death of the night to include names into election rolls, sometimes without the consent of those whose names figure therein, is being unearthed.
I am surprised to see my name on the council list of ANDEC, SDF ANDEC. I'm not a politician. I'm surprised to see my name on that list.
Those finding out that their names are on the list are issuing statements.
I happen to have found my name wanting somewhere in a list of people going in for the council election in the Andek Council of this subdivision. I want to say here categorically that I don't know what is going on. I don't know where my name is coming from and who actually put my name into that list.
Writing resignation letters and using all and any methods to let restoration forces know that they have no business with colonial elections.
They stick us to the big brother, chuka or knife, will be weakness. Then I wait to really make a man can lie you again, say, may they go for inside the very election. You even hear the one go put your name for council or again.
No, inside
This is the case of many candidates, including on the SDF lineup of councillors for Andek in Momo State.
My names are Akam Magdalene Angu.
I, Mary Ann Aggressive of Tinechong.
I, Agwe Marcos Akambum, and my sister Mbuta Rose do here declare the allegation that we are militants of the Social Democratic Front.
In explaining why they are against local and legislative elections being organized anywhere in Balinyonga in Ambazonia's MEZAM state, the restoration forces there took time to explain the legal justification of the Restoration of Independence campaign, using the word secession to describe it, as La République du Cameroon likes to use it, but then explaining why there is nothing wrong even if what Ambazonians are doing were to be described as secession.
Secession is a political opinion, and self-determination is a fundamental human right, as the United Nations Charter clearly outlines. But then, why are we suffering? As of now, more than 3,500 Ambazonians have gone to their graves, many in mass graves. Children, young girls have been raped, mothers have been raped, children molested, ladies asked to swim on mud, like the case in Balinyonga, yet the international body has set their eyes off it, as though they don't know what is happening. Knowing your right is not a crime, and we have known our right. Reason why a boy of this age left school to fight for his right.
Speaking for restoration forces all across Ambazonia, the commanders in Balinyonga reminded the colonialists in Yaoundé and their sponsors abroad, including the United Nations and France, that Ambazonia will not allow implementation on its soil of any of the outcomes of the sham so-called major national dialogue.
The so-called national dialogue was a drama. I will repeat it again. It was a stage drama, and none of its resolution shall be allowed to take place on ground zero Ambazonia.
Restoration forces on Saturday gave exactly 5 days to anyone who is on any of the election lists and supposedly running for local or legislative elections in Balinyonga to withdraw or face arrests.
As for the election of Mr. Biya, I want to say, no council, no parliamentary election. No council, no parliamentary election. Anybody whose name is in the list, you know we shall arrest you. We shall not kidnap you. It is our right. As freedom fighters, we will arrest them. Anybody who stands as a senator or a parliamentarian, I'm sending a strong warning. But I have not started reacting because we have given time for repentance.
The commander-in-chief of the ADF and leader of AGOF-C, Lucas Choayaba, told the BBC's Focus on Africa magazine program that while the Ahijo Biya regimes have plundered Ambazonia and savaged Ambazonians for 58 years, the time has now come for the colonialists in Yaoundé to realize that they have lost all control of Ambazonia, now 80% in the hands of restoration forces, and to come to terms with the fact that continued colonization will never be allowed to thrive.
Mr. Biya does not have an understanding of the gravity of the situation that he faces. All through history, he has done this charade at a time when we were not armed. At this stage of our war of independence, we control 80% of our territory. I'm not sure how he is going to implement his decentralization. The world needs to act on this gentleman. The world should sit up and work together to make sure there is an international process that is credible, bring Cameroon to the table, negotiate the termination of the occupation of our homeland.
The AMF on Ground Zero, along with Sokadev and the ADF, have all joined other restoration forces in banning elections and or election campaigns in territory under their control.
If all the prisoners, our brothers and sisters that have been held in their prisons are not being released before the 31st of the month of December, we will change the step of the war. There will be no government office that will operate in the land of Amba without our brothers and sisters being released. We don't want to see anybody that will be working in any office come 2020 with our brothers and sisters still being in the prison.
Flags have been at half-mast all across Ambazonia since Friday in painful and prayerful remembrance of the assassination by La République du Cameroon terrorist forces of General Ivo Mba on the 21st of December 2018, little over a year ago. Vivian Bangui, Commander-in-Chief of the BSCRF, paid tribute to the fallen hero a year ago.
In the early hours of Friday, December 21st, 2018, the world came to a brief halt. Ambazonia was motionless. The trees and the waters, the birds and the animals were still as the finest, the bravest, and the most charismatic General Ivo took his last breath in the battle of Teki.
Vivian Bangwe's words of remembrance issued in her tribute message to General Ivo 1 year ago continue to ring true.
You are not gone yet. We are not there yet. And so we will fight on. We will fight on, General Ivo, until Ambazonia. Thank you. Thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for taking the mantle. Ambazonia, Ambazonia, Ambazonia will be free.
Rest in peace, brave soul, and may the souls of all departed Ambazonian restoration commanders, foot soldiers, and citizens massacred in this war rest in perfect peace. You are listening to Ambazonia Calling, your space for educated news analysis, informed opinions and commentary towards the recognition of a free, independent Ambazonia. I am Ntumfoyn. Stay with us.
Still ahead in this edition, we have a winner of the Nyamfuka of the Week. And we are not done until you have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling. Bobeno Sincha is sticking around. He's got the second part of a news wrap-up.
Uncorroborated reports from the Red Dragons of LEBIALEM continue talking about La République du Cameroon meeting their Waterloo in Malalo and Mission Biele. According to the Red Dragons, 3 trucks full of soldiers were shattered, leaving at least 20 dead and several others with severe to life-threatening injuries in both attacks. A colonial subdivisional slave in Kumba, Alfred Mende Ngale, has made public a threat that any civil servant that fails to vote in Kumba 3 will face punitive sanctions prescribed by the administration. The December 19th circular comes on the heels of calls by armed pro-independence fighters who are accelerating their campaign to ensure a total boycott of the February 9th, 2020 municipal and legislative elections. Respective factions of the self-proclaimed interim government group are agreeing to form a reconciliation committee no later than January 4th, 2020. Respective sides agreed Sunday, December 22nd, that select elderly statesmen will be charged to take a deep dive into the origins of the splintering within the power-hungry group, as well as prescribed solutions. Organized by the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian Activist Front, SCAF, the warring factions almost immediately turned their drawn daggers at the activists, in spite of an agreement for surrogates to refrain and desist from attacking each other, especially the leadership in jail. The group of activists brought in Milton Taka, speaking from South Africa on behalf of the Ayuk Tabe faction, and Chris Anu of the Sako faction. While attempts in the diaspora to close ranks continue limping along,
so Adeye wa general, me say metado be na one. Oh, no, so.
Ground Zero has been making tremendous progress from the northern zone and across the southern zone, with respective armed groups agreeing to bury the hatchet in order to collaborate for the liberation of Ambazonia.
I thank all una, because I know say all una don't get a problem where una see say we no dey in one. We don't come here today for make me una know say we dey in one. So even some man there was some place she don't say meta get a problem. We no get problem. My man no buy talk with mob, just he talk any way, he no know aye.
This is one of the worst weeks for French colonization.
We cover the historic reform of one of West Africa's major currencies, the CFA franc.
Ever since Algeria gained independence and Sékou Touré of Guinea-Conakry spat on the hand stretched out by General de Gaulle during his 1958 trip to Congo-Brazzaville. It was on that trip that de Gaulle offered conditional independence along with a decolonization tax managed through a worthless currency, the CFA franc,
introduced to the French colonies in West Africa in 1945, replacing the French West African franc.
Set up by and minted by colonial France for its former colonies.
Le franc CFA, qui signifiait à sa création en 1945 franc des colonies françaises d'Afrique.
It is one of France's most reliable colonial stooges, President Alassane Ouattara of Côte d'Ivoire, currently chair of the rotating presidency of UEMOA, who has announced 3 major changes to the CFA currency. First, the change of name from CFA to the ECO.
Le changement du nom de la monnaie. Du franc CFA à l'ECO.
Second, UEMOA member states are stopping with immediate effect the compulsory deposit of 50% of their foreign reserves in the French treasury.
L'arrêt de la centralisation de 50% de nos réserves de change au Trésor français et la fermeture du compte d'opération.
And third, an immediate stop is being put to the practice of Paris appointing French expatriates to lord it over Africans in their central banks.
Le retrait des représentants de la France de tous les organes de décision et de gestion de l'UEMOA.
Before anyone rushes to jubilate, the French are not going anywhere. Shakespeare asked, "What's in the name? Let me add, that which you call the CFA by the ECO. It will smell just as colonial." The successor of the CFA, called the ECO, will be to the currency what Biya was to Ahijo. Bonnet blanc, blanc bonnet, the French say. The more it changes, the more it is the same. Thus, it is that the ECO is still going to be guaranteed by the French Treasury.
Et convenu du maintien de la garantie de convertibilité, si vous en étiez d'accord.
Aujourd'hui, la France ajuste donc son positionnement pour devenir le garant financier de l'Union, conformément aux choix faits par les États.
And it will have a fixed parity with the euro, exactly as the CFA.
De maintenir la parité fixe de notre monnaie avec l'euro.
Even as the reforms were being announced from Côte d'Ivoire, the former African Union ambassador to the Americas, Chiwomboro Kwa, slammed the world anew for letting France steal so blatantly and for so many decades while the entire world looked the other way.
How is this okay that Africa continues to be exploited to this extent? How is it okay that the world has watched as France is taking cold, hard cash out of Africa? How is this okay? I want to know.
The former ambassador pointed out one area where she sees the next battle between Africa and France being fought.
I am very encouraged by the president of Benin.
Whereas the funds belong to them, only Benin, out of the 8 UEMOA countries, has demanded that France should refund all the foreign reserves Benin has contributed to the French treasury.
He has put in a formal request for all the bank reserves his country has deposited with France.
And knowing how the French operate, using coups to oust any leaders who fail to toe the line, Chuambora Kwa is already warning France against perpetrating any coup in Benin.
So to France I say, we are watching you, France. There better not be a coup in Benin, because that is your modus operandi. There better not be any instability in Benin, because that is your modus operandi. I'm hoping that the rest of the West African countries, quote-unquote, former French colonies, can also demand a refund of their deposits. Africa is on the move.
French President Emmanuel Macron stood by Ouattara and confirmed that the colonial master had indeed given authorization for the colonized to play in the new financial playground the French was opening under a different name. The colonial ties could not be hidden in the choice of words of the two speeches. Ouattara claimed that the decision was taken by the African leaders.
Je suis heureux d'annoncer qu'en accord avec les autres chefs d'État de l'UEMOA, nous avons décidé de faire une réforme du franc CFA.
While Macron explained that he, the slave master, and his slaves took the decision together.
Nous avons ensemble décidé de mettre fin à la centralisation obligatoire des réserves de change en France.
Les chefs d'État de l'UEMOA ont également décidé.
In other words, the slaves in French plantations across Africa must be happy because the worthless currency in which they will henceforth sell their cotton, coffee, cocoa, timber, and oil to France has now been changed. Hallelujah! Let the colonized rejoice and be glad. The echo is begotten of the CFA franc, born of colonial France, betrothed to the euro, and still saddled with the French treasury. If you feel pissed, you are not alone. Innocent Chia for Ambazonia Calling.
Sonko on the mic. Feel it with me. Don't be afraid of money. Use what you have to get what you want. Inspirational. Spend the money. Don't be afraid of money. Don't be afraid of money. Who fears money has no money. Spend the money. Don't be afraid of money. Don't be afraid of money. Keeping money is to kill money. Spend the money. Don't be afraid of money. Don't be afraid of money. Use the money to get money. Spend the money. Don't be afraid of money. Don't be afraid of money. Your output is determined by your input. Spend the money. If you need some money, spend some money to get money. If you need more money, spend more money to get money. If you want to be rich, spend some money to get money. If you love that baby, spend some money to prove your love. Don't be afraid of money. Don't be afraid of money. Keeping money can add money. Spend the money. Spend the money. Spend, 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 spend the money. Spend, 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 spend the money. Like a boss. If truly you are a spender, spend the money. Don't keep it. Spenders don't keep money. They spend it. I'm up. Don't be afraid of money. Don't be afraid of money. Money is happy when you use it. Spend the money. Don't be afraid of money. Don't be afraid of money. Money hates you when you keep it. Spend the money.
Here we go. Drum roll, please. And welcome to our Nyamfoka of the Week segment. We don't do foolish, but when there are capital fools out there, we make it our duty to find them, and every week we crown one of them the Nyamfoka of the Week. We have gotten to that point again on the program today when we review the kings and queens of foolish for the week. Here is Veronique Ntumfoyn.
Finishing in third place this week is Human Rights Watch and its lead researcher on the Cameroons, Ilaria Alegrozi. The New York-based rights organization has chosen to cover up for the war crimes, human rights violations, and genocidal violence of the Biya regime. The trick they have used so far is to abdicate their job. completely avoid reporting on the Cameroons or focus on 24 people living with disabilities in Ambazonia, rather than report on the thousands mutilated and maimed by the terrorist forces of Mr. Biya. Not satisfied with killing these victims all over again, Ms. Allegrozi rolled out a survey on Twitter and Facebook seeking validation of her half-baked ideas on Ambazonia. It is not the first time Ms. Allegrozi and Human Rights Watch have done this monkey business with the lives of Ambazonians. Human Rights Watch and its lead researcher on the Cameroons, Ilaria Allegrozi, are this week's joint winners of the third place finish on the Crown of Shame, the Nyamfuka of the Week.
Nyamfuka them all.
The runners-up for the Crown of Shame this week is the man whom some have already nicknamed the Ngong Dog of the Ambazonia Revolution. It is more than a coincidence because his name also happens to be Mr. Ngong. He is an activist and one of the do-nothing fake ambassadors to Asia. A fortnight ago, he had no shame telling Ambazonians to forget about their independence. A few days after, he claimed that whereas Team Ambazonia was dealing with humanitarian dialogue, somehow he and his pro-Seseko IG group are apparently dealing with the Swiss government. This week, the anchor of No Conny Corner and my daily podcast for Una found himself salivating in the hope that an error in a petition was some prophecy of doom. To hate comrades in the revolution to the point of wishing they could get something wrong, potentially ruining the revolution for all. This boy of a man, better known by his pen name, Capo Daniel, aka Capo Pamela, is this week's runners-up for the Crown of Shame, the Nyamfuka of the Week.
Nyamfuka them all.
Winning the crown this week is a man who has distinguished himself as an online, all-back and no-bite warrior. He is the town crier for Rebel TV, never sparing a minute to spew hate and advocate all kinds of threats. His name is Tapang Ivo Tanku. It would be hard to find someone else who has fought the Ambazonia War of Independence only with his loud mouth. He has brought the entire revolution into disrepute, calling for beheadings and for heads to be delivered to him on a platter. Over the last month, he has rattled the diaspora by calling for targeted kidnappings for ransom. This week, he distinguished himself by spinning the big fat lie that AGOVC and the ADF were invited by Team Ambazonia to affix their names and signatures to the petition ACT was sending to French parliamentarian Sébastien Nadeau. As with the many falsehoods that this Rebel TV boss has specialized in telling, this latest one enthrones Tapang Ivo Tanku as this week's winner of the Crown of Shame, the Nyamfuka of the Week.
Nyamfuka them all.
This is Veronique Vetimfe for Ambazonia Calling.
Ambazonia Calling. You are in the heart of the news shrine. Call us the Kalakuta Republic of commentary, opinion, and editorials. Separating reality from fiction, distinguishing shadows from real objects. And leading, not just gazing, is all in the art of leadership. A thing that Tanya Jude Agua Ozugen says is cruelly missing in the so-called leaders of the Ambazonian Revolution. Here's Tanya Jude Agua Ozugen.
In his book, Leadership is an Art, American businessman and writer Max Dupree pointed out that the first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. Far too many of those passing around for leaders of the Ambazonia revolutions are yet to separate fiction from reality. They either see the world with tinted glasses of everything goes, or with so many cobwebs in their eyes that they might as well be sleepwalking. The leaders, with an understanding of the diplomacy of getting to the negotiating table, recognize the reality and absolute need to secure a place for Ambazonia at the table of the internationally supported negotiations under the auspices of Switzerland. That act alone downsized colonial Cameroon to just one of the two parties at the table. It made sure that Ambazonia will be considered on equal footing with its abusive colonizer of the past 58 years. This reality was unfolding before our very eyes, while many made shameless attempts to paint this new gain as fiction. That fiction grew legs and wings, spinning yarns and selling falsehoods. Contrast that with the valiant foot soldiers of this revolution on ground zero. Our defenders on ground zero have experienced the reality of mass slaughters, yet they race daily to the tree of liberty to water it with their own blood, while some diaspora-based power seeker badmouth negotiations. This week, again, the United Nations joined major world powers from the United States to Belgium, from Canada to the United Kingdom, and yes, even France, in issuing fresh injunctions and reminder letters, letting the Biya regime know that they must meet Ambazonia at the Swiss-led mediation, one-on-one, face-to-face, one nation versus its colonizer. You would think that in such an hour, those who not only fell asleep at the switch while the Swiss-led process was being initiated, but who attacked it without cause, like rabbit attack dogs, will come out of their slumber. Oh no, the contempt for scruples and prescience is so strong. The determination to tear down the only international initiative that actually benefits Ambazonia is real. It is only rivaled by the reality that Ambazonia is increasingly hostage to leaders who don't care for reality half as much as they are beholden to their selfish interests. Their surrogates were salivating this week. You care to know why they were having such an orgasmic ecstasy? Well, a little inadvertent typo omission in a letter from Team Ambazonia to French parliamentarian Sébastien Nadat. Happily, the people of Ambazonia see through this much ado about nothing. The same people who could not tell when La République blundered into bluffing Ambazonia about negotiations have an eye sharp enough to read a typo, but not brain enough to know when it is advantage Ambazonia. This is not new. Did many not laugh at the likes of Fongoji Dinka, Abed Mukong, Kevin Gumne when they dared to defend Ambazonia? So-called leaders are more prepared to make the argument in favor of La République not giving the Swiss a mandate than they are willing to demand that La République report for negotiations. It is called tomfoolery on steroids. It is sadly an attention-seeking, myself and I disease that has not only afflicted the power-drunk, money-hungry, ass-licking flunkies of Atanganji Paul and Dion Gute, but also far too many so-called Ambazonia leaders. Most disgusting, indeed, if you pardon my French. This is Tani Jude Agua Ozugen for Ambazonia Calling.
Amango today inside pay, you know the free. We president on the side say all man of yay. Grand ambition, fuck that slogan, no yay. Presido, the pay jaga jaga. Una take all till the we for scatter. They need 102 students for send address. Una select 2 Anglophones, escape address. Biya, young, Dijon, prison. Escape who know why man show BBC there for prison. They don't tell all we then start for colors Anglophones. Fuck up the government, we ain't tools. Minister for Communication, no fit talk good English. Southern Cameroon independence, that's my wish. No good third roads, no seaports, no light, no attack, no airports. President, you overget fake promises. Wait to happen, feeling yours, you bring us diseases. But men are the cry, we are the ask why. You don't come for that chair, you don't go shake, you go die. Men are the crying, we are the crying. About what they
other place.
Hello, stop looking around. There's only one show out there. It's called Ambazonia Calling. Many of those who are naysayers when it comes to the Swiss-led process are just trying to pull wool over the eyes of Ambazonians, blow up your ears with a lot of words signifying absolute nothing. One of them is Dr. G, and from out of South Africa, he released this audio 2 weeks ago. WhatsApp diplomacy versus real diplomacy.
We are currently embroiled with this Swiss process, for which as a country, as a leadership, as South Africa, we have taken a principled position, which is that which President Sisiko has taken, which is a position of skepticism.
Hey, Dr. G, everyone is skeptical about this whole thing. We're trusting no one, including the people at the table. You're not alone.
Skepticism because there are a number of practical questions that we have put on the table.
So Dr. G says they put on the table. To who in the world? The United Nations, the Commonwealth, the European Union, the United States? Who exactly did they put this on the table before?
For which we want answers.
Oh yeah, and also accountability in the process.
Questions around the mandate of the parties that are involved.
Questions around the mandate? You are not giving a mandate, but you want to know if the other person has given a mandate?
Question around the position of the Republic of Cameroon as far as this process is concerned.
Again, there's nobody they're saying this to except on WhatsApp, to themselves.
Question about the enforceability of the outcomes.
If you're not interested in a deal, but you want to find out how the outcome is going to be enforced.
Practical questions
Practical questions. That sounds really bookish. But truly, you're not raising them with anyone, are you?
We figured needed to be answered before this. Obviously, we did say that
people like Dr. G are not engaging anyone diplomatically. This is just pure, unadulterated political masturbation on WhatsApp.
We do not want to approach a negotiation in a place of weakness.
The people of Ambazonia, your strength is at the table of negotiations. Your strength is your legal case. Your strength are those international instruments that gave you independence, those resolutions before the United Nations. That is where your strength is. The other strength is for warlords. It has nothing to do with the people of Ambazonia.
Notwithstanding the fact that we are resolute and clear.
This is just so laughable.
To the international community that we are open for negotiation, we are open for dialogue.
This just sounds like Fela Ransom Kuti singing Open and Close.
This is a new dance called Open and Close.
But we are not going to go into that process without certain preconditions.
This is certainly the best. We are not going to do it without preconditions. This is bull.
And we are particularly of a view that we need to get a number of more friendly countries.
I mean, more friendly countries like Nigeria, like France, like Cote d'Ivoire, like who? The key countries in the world are already at the table.
That accompany us in the process. That countries who have a credibility of steel.
Because all of those ones that are already there now, they're absolutely not credible, right? If there's anything that lacks credibility, it's not the countries that are on the table at this moment. What lacks credibility is all of these gesticulations on WhatsApp, trying to tell our people that you're doing something that you're not doing.
And who are dependable and reliable that we think can accompany us in the process.
This diplomacy of WhatsApp doesn't work. There is a real world and there is real diplomacy being done.
And we particularly think that in this conversation, there's a missing African voice.
I know we talk, and there's grandma's voice too that's missing.
That we think that is supposed to be top on the agenda. And so we've crafted that as part of our strategy.
I mean, Dr. G, all of you are so intelligent that you can say all these words on WhatsApp, but just be humble enough to tell the people of Ambazonia that you don't get it. That this is one thing that simply beats you. You don't understand how it works. You don't understand how the diplomacy works. You can't imagine that the very dull ones got it right. Bring that intelligence to the table and stop being a fool on WhatsApp.
We should trust in our cost that is embedded in truth and it's God ordained, and we should hope for the best while expecting challenges.
Our job is to ensure that the negotiations work for what we seek, and that our leaders and negotiating team do not sign onto any deal that falls short of outright independence for our homeland. In other words, our destiny is in our hands, not in the hands of the mediator.
Where is the war in southern Cameroon? Is the war at La République? No. So who has crossed borders? La République du Cameroon. They need to ask La République du Cameroon to cease fire, because who also drew first blood? La République du Cameroon. So you can ask someone defending to stop violence.
The job of Ambazonians today is to make the Swiss-led process be the equivalent of the comprehensive peace agreement whose implementation by the United Nations culminated in the independence of South Sudan in July 2011.
They think depend me, they think depend me. They think they touch me, and they think they worry me. As I see my remedy, them, they cry so badly. Kule ya mami them, atongani kongongo. Sayi my sila, sayi my sila. Sabenikela, sabenikela. Wiratira ki ukafi Kibir be say me jakirio. No divide your brother, no divide your brother. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow. No divide your brother, no divide your brother. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow. Cause I believe in unity, cause I believe in unity. If we live like one family, we go conquer tomorrow.
On the other side of the jingle of the Devil on Mask, we're going to be replaying an interview that was granted by Barrister Ashu Agbo to Jonathan Babila on Equinox TV. With Jonathan Babila playing along, Barrister Ashu Agbo takes the opportunity to re-explain why Ambazonia is not part of La République and why the nonsense about special status is not even to be considered. Welcome to our special interview segment, The Devil on Mask, The Truth Out.
When you go back historically, you have to be reminded that we are not talking here of a province or a region. It's a state with all the institutions of state and with international recognition.
It was a state.
It is a state, not was. It is a state.
But there are two regions now.
I am telling you that it is a state. That nonsense of region is what is causing the problem, the current problem, and that's the reason why the international community is bringing down pressure to bear on Cameroon, because Cameroon is denying historical, internationally recognized historical facts. I mean, there is, go to the United Nations. The independence of Southern Cameroon came from the United Nations. Resolution 1608 in Article 2 clearly recognizes the independence of Southern Cameroon. Clearly.
The independence that was achieved by joining.
That's right.
La République.
Correct.
Or the former La République.
By choosing to join La République de Cameroon, I mean, they obtained their independence, which was actually granted on the 1st of October 1961. So you cannot treat an independent country like a small region, a small part of a country to which you are giving, as if, I mean, it's a gift you are making to it. No.
But I want us to get this thing very clearly. In the federal system, there were two states.
Good. Let me remind you that that federal constitution was the unilateral act of President Ahmadou Ahidjo. The unilateral act. He signed it alone. And there is nowhere in the world any constitution is decreed by a president. In fact, Ahmadou Ahidjo had no powers, no legal authority to decree anything concerning Southern Cameroon. That was not part of his territory. In fact, when Resolution 1608 was being voted, Cameroon was in the assembly and they voted against it. So there is no way they can pretend that that territory that was concerned by that resolution was part of them, because they participated in the vote of 1608 and they voted against. Now, you see that from the constitution, the federal constitution that was unilaterally decreed by Ahijo, they moved on now to the unitary constitution and to where we are today. And they are perpetuating that assimilation that they started in 61 through the federal constitution. So when you talk of federal constitution, what is the legal basis? It stemmed from a unilateral act of President Ahmadu Ahijo. It was not legal.
How was it a unilateral act?
In constitutional law, constitutions are the acts of an assembly. We are talking here of two states that decided, one state that decided to join to have or attain independence by joining the other one. Now, what they ought to do was to come up with a union treaty that was going to be ratified by the parliaments of both states. That is how it is done in international law. Even under the present constitution of Cameroon, it is there. Treaties and international agreements only obtain binding force when they are ratified, when they are duly ratified. But you cannot, like in the case of Southern Cameroons, people have voted to go and join their brothers. The United Nations say, okay, come out with the Union Treaty to define how you are going to live together. They don't do it. They just start. The president takes his pen, the president of the other state takes his pen and decrees that there is a federal constitution in place. I mean, under all the songs in this world, that is illegal. It is illegal. And that is the reason why the international community, the UN, the US, everybody is saying, sit on the table and discuss this thing out. Because what you did was wrong. You cannot erase an independent state.
Jam chimala amaya ma bonta. Ibusula lilina fata su bonta. That's what the king said. That's what the king said to the messenger. Tum tuma bena bebo. Ala anya ma bozu zento. This lion down the valley. I know the shepherd them divani. Hey. Leaving the lion and the lamb with the broken leg. Left at the mercy for the lion just to chop it up. She got her back against the wall. She had to fight for her life. She had to stand. She couldn't die without the fight. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah.
Ambazonians know that there is an international conspiracy against Southern Cameroons dating back perhaps to the 1950s. Maybe all the way to when God created the universe. But from time to time, Ambazonians knew they could count on someone to speak on their behalf. There was a time when Ambazonians could count on human rights organizations. Not anymore with respect to Human Rights Watch, because apparently Human Rights Watch is now in Mr. Biya's pocket. It is now specialized when it comes to Cameroon on public relations or lobbying or something that looks very much like it on behalf of the genocidal regime of Mr. Biya. Here is Barrister Manjong Judambe.
Ambazonians have come to accept the fact that they cannot expect support from human rights organizations so far as their fight for independence is concerned. But they also do not expect rights groups to abdicate their job in favor of blatantly supporting the genocidal regime of Mr. Biya in Yaoundé. Well, count Human Rights Watch out. The New York-based rights group is either bought and paid for, devoted to lobbying in support of colonial Yaoundé, or is so sloppy in fulfilling its duties that it has left many an Ambazonian scratching their head in bewilderment. Is Human Rights Watch now all about watching out to ensure Paul Biya's rights violations, especially as they relate to the Southern Cameroons, remain unexposed? The lead researcher at Human Rights Watch with responsibility for the Cameroons, Ms. Hilaria Legrozi, recently launched a survey trying to teleguide Ambazonians and any other willing respondent into giving them a pass for their sloppy reporting to date on Mr. Biya's genocidal war in Ambazonia. Listen to her. Is the situation prevailing in the Anglophone regions a non-international armed conflict? If so, why? If not, why? And what is it instead? Unrest? Insurgency? Other? Such are the questions Mr. Legrozi wants answers for. And you do not need to be Einstein to figure out where Human Rights Watch is heading with these questions. First, they are all posing these questions because they've insisted against all the mountain of evidence to call the ongoing genocidal violence a crisis. Second, they are hoping that even if respondents say it is an armed conflict, they will not agree that it is international, given that Ambazonia is not yet recognized. What Mr. Legrosi and Human Rights Watch have out there is not a survey. It is first-hand evidence of a huge conspiracy, seeking validation from the very victims at whom the conspiracy is directed. Human Rights Watch can run, but it cannot hide its dubious intentions. Come to think of it, if Human Rights Watch, its experts and band of lawyers cannot say with certitude if what is unfolding in the southern Cameroons is a crisis, an armed conflict, an international armed conflict, a war of recolonization, a territorial dispute between the two Cameroons, or a genocidal war, why would they expect ordinary citizens filling out their survey online to know? Shame on Human Rights Watch for the games they've been playing. They are on record for intentionally leaving Cameroon out from one of their reports, thereby helping Yaoundé avoid the negative publicity their actions warranted. They delivered one of their reports to Yaoundé and obtained a rebuttal which they shamefully included in the report before releasing it. At the launch of that report, they went so far as to give the floor to the Biya genocidal regime not only to defend itself, but rubbish everything they had said against them in their own report. Talk of collusion? If there's any Ambazonian who does not know what witchcraft looks like, all they have to do is take a good look at Human Rights Watch. This is Manjong Jurambe for Ambazonia Calling.
Show me the love for once and now and ever. Show me the love for once and now and ever. Show me the love for once and now and ever. Where is the genuine love as a true friend and brother? Those who fight for freedom and run away shall live to fight another day, says Bob Marley, my big brother.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Something is killing me slowly, and I'm feeling so lonely. But this thing I must to talk, oh. Yeah. All my people, they for bush, oh. And our children are they go for school, oh. But nobody fit to talk, oh. We get to plenty, so many things where we really want to complain to you. See these people where they kill us, are the people where they get for protect me, yeah. Our children they for prison, our leaders they for prison. Now they calling for dialogue. Now who and who go talk, oh. That's why we pray to God. Heal our land, heal our land, heal our land. Cause all our people are dying, and our mothers are crying. Heal our land, heal our land, heal our land. Cause all our children are dying, and our mothers are crying.
J.M. Biengo went after another J.M. Akuro, this week. Here is Innocent Chia delivering on behalf of J.M. Biengo what is a lesson in diplomacy for JMA.
I think John is both a sophist and a liar. Yes, he did give valid reasons to illustrate that by the book, procedure was not followed. But John Akuro should also admit that he castigated the process and among many other reasons said it was untimely because the struggle had not taken territory, that the Swiss were untrustworthy, that it was Paul Biya's scheme brought to Sako by Federalist Eli Smith, that the IG was the initiator of the project, implying that it was a sign of weakness to sue for negotiations. Are all those allegations not on social media? If John has repented from these positions, allegations, and insults because it is now made repeatedly clear that the UN, EU, Commonwealth, Canada, etc., have endorsed the Swiss initiative, proving again that John Akuro lied when he argued that these groups and countries had not endorsed it, Let him tell the Ambazonian people and bring his own little diplomatic know-how at the service of the people. Failing which, John Bakuro should tell us who his master is, for it would then be clear that he is working against the struggle. His lies are now legendary, the most recent being his insistence that the fake letter to 9 members of the U.S. Congress was authentic even after he had seen the real document released by the IG about a week earlier. As a student of diplomacy, John Bakuro should, more than most of us, know that diplomacy has no straight paths pre-designed. It is a very flexible art. Depending on the challenges, diplomacy seeks to behave like a flowing stream, meandering around obstacles to get to destination. To insist that theories be followed to the letter is very misleading. It is in Ambazonia's best interest to lobby and get the belligerent, better armed adversary to the table. Again, John Bakuro erred viciously to think and to propound otherwise. John Bakuro and all like him should repent and spare us more delays and headaches. In studio, for J.M. Biengo, I am Innocent Chia.
This basic, no? They didn't enter me for body. T-Marshal for Ambazonia. I don't come again. Give up.
It is hard not to petition a member of Congress who systematically seems to be doing everything to avoid speaking directly to any Ambazonian leaders or people who support the restoration of the independence of Ambazonia. That is the case of Congresswoman Karen Bass of California. And this week, Abdul Karim Ali put together a letter. It is read in studio by Wilbur Ade.
Dear Congresswoman Karen Bass, I write to say you have done nothing wrong in your influence on the Southern Cameroon's War of Independence. I refer to it as an inference because I am definitely sure you lack the right primary source material from which to draw any viable and correct conclusions. Naomi Soggs and Jeanette Yarawood are auxiliaries to traitors, enemies and enablers of a persecuted people. During your visits to Yaoundé, you didn't fulfill the acceptable procedure of information gathering, that is, visiting the Southern Cameroons and talking to activists, victims, and opinion leaders on the ground. We understand you were precluded by enablers from pursuing the noble cause of talking to the people of Southern Cameroons. You will agree as an academic that you are, that it is totally unacademic to make inferences without engaging the people on the ground. Permit me to remind you that neutrality in the face of injustice is injustice. Madam, Southern Cameroonians are not terrorists as much as George Washington or Thomas Jefferson were not. Southern Cameroonians have been under siege for 58 years and war was declared on us 2 years ago. All we are doing is defend our mothers, fathers, children from being slaughtered by the military. Ask us about what concerns us if you desire to know the truth. Southern Cameroonians are the ones pursuing a peace process led by Switzerland. We have nothing to hide. When the fact-finding missions come in, let them ask us about us, and then you shall make conclusions. One won't ask the mice if they would need milk after giving cookies. Please ask us about us. Refrain from asking our enemy about us. Please, keep up the good work and don't allow bad elements to drag the reputation of your office into the gutter. Kind regards, Abdul Karim Ali. Read in studio for Ambazonia Calling by Wilbur Ade.
Please don't go anywhere. We will be right back with Ambazonia Calling.
This is a lesson that every Ambazonian should know by heart from real politics. The world won't roll over just to please the heart to satisfy in the ranks of our people. Those who choose to be spoilers will be free to do as they please.
I recognize the fact that even those I consider to be egoistic or to be selfish, I recognize the fact that the intent is good. People simply think I have the best route to Biya, I have the shortest way, the easiest way. I recognize all that.
Ambazonia Calling. You are in the heart of the news shrine. Call us the Kalakuta Republic of commentary, opinion, and editorials.
The search for a completely neutral country will never be successful because there is no such thing as a perfectly neutral country to serve as mediator.
The masses are crying. Oh, man, you say there is no problem. Molestation, repression, suppression, assimilation. You say there is no problem, brother.
It is often said that it is better to have strong institutions than to have strong men. The nation in waiting of Ambazonia is littered with its strong men and weak institutions. The monk from Ibalikumato warns that if we continue in this path, we would be building that new nation on a foundation of sinking sand.
The root and kernel of everything Ambazonia can be found in Ambazonia.
Okay. The most dangerous thing for Africa today is a colonized African.
That is the former African Union ambassador to the Americas, Chihumbori Kwao. Here is the one mistake previously colonized Africans have done without success for over a century.
So I say to my fellow Africans, let's decolonize ourselves.
Trying to imitate European systems, but without the required accoutrements of European culture. What do I mean?
Until Africa gets to that point when we stand up proud and tall as Africans and understanding that our sheer survival begins with our unity, the exploitation will continue.
Strong institutions will not be brought about by miracle in Ambazonia. Long story short is this. A close study of so-called institutions in the West or any other self-governing European country will point to one thing: culture. An Ambazonia citizen interested in the history of the people of Ambazonia, who they are, where they came from, when they came, how they came to be where they are in Ambazonia.
Force people to have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror. Who are you? Why are you doing what you're doing?
There is culture in almost everything. How people walk, how they talk, in or out of parliament, in court, in the market, in schools, in the home, at work, etc., etc. If Africans completely kick their cultures to the curb and decide on creating institutions that have little or nothing to do with their cultures, then we will get what we expect. Ambazonians who so far seem all too eager or are all too willing to submit to tyranny are setting the foundation on which a future dictatorship will grow in Ambazonia. Sudanese billionaire Mo Ibrahim warns that the rest of the world is laughing at the sham democracies Africans are forced to endure under sit-tight, extremely old and even wheelchair-bound strong men.
Look at the average age of our presidents. It's about 63, 64 years old. We're the only continent in the world where we have presidents at 90 years old starting new terms. I mean, you guys are crazy or what? We've seen people in wheelchairs unable to raise hands to standing for elections. This is a joke. Yes, you are right to laugh, because the whole world is laughing at us.
The major fallout from a failure to build institutions is the rise of so-called strongmen.
So we have to stop pretending that countries that just hold an election where sometimes the winner somehow magically gets 90% of the vote because all the opposition is locked up or can't get on TV is a democracy.
Obama raises an issue, the failure or absence of strong institutions. And you and I know that will not even begin to solve the mountain of issues we have on the table.
Democracy depends on strong institutions, and it's about minority rights and checks and balances and freedom of speech and freedom of expression and a free press and the right to protest and petition the government and an independent judiciary and everybody having to follow the law.
Strongman is clear proof of the failure or lack of strong institutions. A dictatorship is a one-point of failure system. If the dictator gets hit by a bus, the whole system crashes. Submission to self-proclaimed interim governments, of which Ambazonia has no fewer than 4, is the sure and certain way of guaranteeing that the country Ambazonians seek to restore will be governed with the barrel of the gun, free of any effort to build strong institutions. There is a conscious choice citizens can make: to build strong institutions or to prop a strongman dictatorship. Remember, people come and go, institutions can stay. The wise need few words. This is the monk from Ibalikumato for Ambazonia Calling.
Baby, my love for you now. Baby girl, I say with you, I'm just surprised. My love for you, girl, I know if it take you out of sight. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh. I do anything. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh. Everything. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh. I do for you. I do anything for you, eh. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh.
Let me land. I'm on my feet. I'm a representative of the people. Could you allow me land, sir? You are a senator like me. Let me land. I'm living from a region. Let me share my difficulties with you. I'm not living a normal life of a senator in my region. I'm internally displaced. Living is a privilege, and to die is a rule in the Northwest and Southwest region. That's why we are all becoming internally displaced. He says to the military, il faut continuer avec le ratissage. That ratissage means destroy everything to the ground level. That's why you have destruction of buildings. Il faut continuer avec le ratissage. We have a situation in Noni where people dug a grave. And they were asked to enter into it, and they were shot dead and buried inside a grave. A whole village in Bamukumbi, Balikuma subdivision, has been razed down. Balikumbat, where I come from, a quarter was swept by fire, and somebody escaping from fire was shot and thrown into the fire. A whole quarter was brought down. I wrote complaint about the military, and I was told that if they don't investigate, what will I do? In Batu, after killing a lady, a landmine was placed under the corpse. And when the family came to take the corpse for burial, it exploded, killing more and wounding others. That's the situation we're living in the Northwest region. And it is important for me to let my colleague senators understand. Very important.
We are not done until you have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling. We are at that time in the year when we begin to review 2019. Some of the most incriminating statements made against the Biya regime were made by Christian Cardinal Tumi. If you are wondering as you go into your Christmas what you should do as a Christian in the middle of this Ambazonian war, please listen to Christian Cardinal Tumi. I'll just play an excerpt, one of those fine ones which he produced in the course of this year. He was speaking with CRTV's Joe Chabunkeng Kalabupse, and he said, a Christian must be a rebel. The killers are the government forces, and they are going around and mowing down entire villages. Here's Christian Cardinal Tumi saying he's ready to die and asking every Christian to be a rebel for the truth.
Do you call that rebellion? No, I don't know. I won't define rebellion.
It is a good rebellion. And rebel, when I said a moment ago that a Christian is a rebel against evil.
But how do you reconcile that with the fact that the Bible requests that you pray for your leaders?
We pray for the rebels. We pray for the
rebels?
Yes.
That God should help change them?
We pray for these boys in the bushes. We pray for the army. Most of the killing is done by the army. It's not done by these boys.
Do you have empirical facts?
Oh, of course. Objective study, which is still going on. In Kumbo, 400 people have been killed in the diocese of Kumbo. The Bishop of Kumbo and his priests and some lay have made a study. And the majority of those who have been killed have not been killed by these boys because they do not have the sophisticated arms that the army has. Maybe if they had, they would have killed more, but they don't have the possibility of killing more. Okay. The army comes in, a rebel boy has killed maybe one military man, he runs away, the entire family, and they mow down everybody.
Is that true?
It is perfectly true.
What? Okay.
I'm ready to die for it.
No, you did indicate earlier on that as a pastor you will stand for the truth.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Because you have your army of occupation out in West Cameroon, you believe that when the people will rise, even if you took the whole of the French army and added to yours, you will never bring them down.
And I call on all Cameroon soldiers to lay down their arms within Ambazonia and to turn their arms against the very system that has made them slaves in the land of their birth.
For more stories from around the world, go to the World Wide Web at themissionstribune.com, compassfreepress.com, and africafreedomnetwork.com.
Here is our letter to Joshua.
Dear Joshua, I have been wondering what kind of special status we need to give you. Because, come to think of it, you are already everything. The man who's been in power all his life, Nkrumah returns from Paris to become chef de cabinet, secretary general, prime minister, and president of the Bread and Sardine Republic. It would be great to recognize you as the only person who couldn't hold on to the 5-year development plans. The only person who couldn't host an Africa Cup of Nations in spite of spending all the money on earth. Special status is when you inherit a prosperous country on its way to middle income status, a country that denies going before the IMF for structural adjustment programs, and you run it down to the grave, to the gutter, to the toilet. You sink the country to the special status that President Donald Trump calls an S-hole country, beyond the redemption of economic resurrection. That's special status. Special status is when you are afraid of the mortal remains of your predecessor. When you can't deal with it, you couldn't deal with the person alive, and now you can't even deal with the mortal remains just being buried. You are going to be special status in history books. Everyone is going to read about this guy who on a part-time basis tried to be also the president of Crayfish and Janga Republic. Think about a guy whose pants dropped to the ground in the middle of the summit. That's special status. The name for that special status is political deadwood in power. This is not being born with a golden spoon to your mouth. This is being born with power in your mouth. I mean, think of special status. You are a tyrant, baby killer, chef bandi, you are Ali Baba himself, an election thief, you are a murderer of priests and bishops, you are Grand Katika of Angola. I really wanted to give you special status, but you're already every citizen's worst nightmare. Everything that's dirty you have done. So, what kind of special status could they give someone like you? Special status is when you are the only president in the world who lives abroad and frequently visits your country. When you're the only president who comes in almost at the same time with the Pope visiting your country, to the point the Pope could have welcomed you to your own country. That is special. Think about the guy who lives in a hotel in Geneva and gets expelled, despite the millions and millions of euros he spends there every week. That's special status. We don't need to call the Parliament of Ambazonia to determine that you already have this special status. So from now on, you can go to school in French. You can go to court and you can have all of your cases adjudicated on the basis of civil law. Okay? You can argue the case in French. You can use the Napoleonic Code. That's okay. And look, you can teach French in your schools. They can use the Franco-Cameroonian system. No Anglo-Saxon stuff. No German, no Franco, whatever. By the way, you can manage your lycées, okay? And you can manage all of those, your hospitals, including La Quintini, where you authorize people to use a blunt kitchen knife to operate a pregnant woman just outside the hospital. Amazing, special status. In addition to that, you can have a regional council. You can have that. I mean, you can have a house of chiefs. And did I remember to tell you that the French have already granted you special status? Now you don't have to use the CFA anymore because the new CFA is called the ECO. It's just the same. It is pegged to the same euro and it is guaranteed by the same French treasury and they're not giving your dough back. Ha ha ha. Special status of slaves and colonized people. And there you have it. The special status for the French province of the Cameroons, governed by the puppet of the grandson Manu Macron, Nkrumah himself.
From our studios here in Washington, D.C., our producer is Jeff McCoy. Our music today is from Ken Wanaku, the monk from Balikumato, William Ford, an ambassador of blessed memory, Eric Matisse on the web at soundimage.org, and Prince Ajwa Alemanji of Ajam Sonic Kitron, USA. Ambazonia Calling is a joint production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. You can find us on the web at www.themmissionstribune.com, www.compassfreepress.com,
and www.africafreedomnetwork.com. Next Sunday is another day. Until then, keep the spirit, keep the faith, keep up the fight for justice and independence for Ambazonia. Stay Amba strong.